Okay, right. Good afternoon. So we started unit number 2 yesterday. Uh, in unit number 2, we will have to take computer related things. In fact, we have to take hardware related things because a computer has so many components, 4 components, but mainly we have to focus on hardware components. As I told you earlier yesterday, majority of the syllabus, maybe 90% of this unit belongs to computer hardware, right? So just take a minute or two to recall what we had on the other day, right? So we started off with the term computer. So we defined the term computer. I hope that you all remember the term computer is a machine or is an electronic machine which converts the data to information. So as users, we input the data to the computer. Computer has the responsibility to convert them into information, and those information will be back to us. Okay, right. So it's a machine for processing the data to information. Since a computer is a machine or is an electronic machine, it has some special characteristics. It may have many characteristics, but we have taken some of the special characteristics which a computer has, right? So I just want to take them again. A computer has speed, right? So computer is a very fast machine which can process millions of instructions per second, right? It's very, very fast. That is one of the characteristics. Then a computer is always accurate because it's not a human. It works according to the instructions which fed by the human. So when the instructions are right, a computer will do perfect work, right? That is second one. And also computer has high efficiency. So you know the term efficiency, right? So computer can perform any tasks with the same accuracy and with the same reliability. It can do any task with the same level of accuracy, right? So maybe 24 hours a day it can work, but we can't. Okay, so efficiency is there. And also we discuss about versatility. Versatile is something which describes multiple actions, right? So computer is capable enough to perform multiple tasks at a time, right? That is that belongs to computer, but as people we can't, right? And also I mentioned that computers do not have any feelings, right? They don't have any feelings such as anger or right happiness or whatever, right? So these feelings can be barrier for us. That's why we are unable to perform tasks, but computer can. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics, special characteristics of a computer, right? Then we move to the components of a computer system. Every computer system has 4 components. They are very important for performing any task. It may be a simple task or complex task. You need these 4 components. What are they? Hardware components, so hardware, software, liveware, firmware. I briefly introduced these 4 words yesterday. Hardware components are physical components which are attached in a computer system. So they must be tangible. You can touch them. And also they have physical appearances. But software is a kind of intangible thing, right, which runs into your computer in order to perform tasks. But later we will define the software in a different manner, in a technical manner. It may be an appropriate manner, but this is not the time, or this wasn't the time. That's why I explained briefly, right? So hardware, software must. I took some example to justify the importance of software, right? Like a camera, so those examples, right? Okay. Then we have liveware. So liveware is the human being or the user who handles or who operates the computer. So that is important. Users must be there to coordinate and handle the things. Yes, we also have another one called firmware. Firmware is a kind of program which is needed for starting your computer. It is only for booting purpose. Sorry. Sometimes it is called startup program or something, startup. So it is needed for starting. Actually, not only computer, right? Most of the electronic devices have firmware. AC has that air conditioner should know how to start function. So that particular firmware tells that AC about how to start its functions. Your fridge has, your washing machine has, right? Even your TV, smart TV, most of the electronic devices have firmware because they should properly start their functions, right? So there must be some instructions. Those instructions are available in this firmware. Okay. So as a unit, they work within the computer. So we used to call that as a computer, but it's not a single device. It's a collection of multiple components. Okay, right. Then we went on to take hardware. That may be the unit, right? Hardware. So I already defined the term hardware. It's a physical component. But in a computer system, you can find different types of hardware which can perform different types of tasks, right? So based on the functions of hardware, they are divided into 5 types, right? I categorized them, or I listed them rather. Input devices, output devices, storage devices, processing device, and communication devices. Okay, you have 5 different types of hardware. All of them are hardware, all of them are tangible products, but they have different functions. So let's take them one by one, starting from input device and gradually move one by one, right? So let's take the today's things. Right, look here. Input devices. So as I always say, most of the words in ICT bear the meaning. So as a student, try finding the meaning when you see that particular word or when you hear about that. Don't wait until I finish, right? So just whenever you hear a word or whenever you see a word, try guessing. So input device, it's too easy. I think I explained yesterday. So all these things are hardware, right? There is no doubt. So these hardware components are used for input the data as well as instruction to the computer. As the name implies, you input devices. So these are useful for input the data as well as instruction. So these devices can input both data and instruction. I tell you what the data and what the instruction. See, did I explain this one yesterday? Okay, doesn't matter. Even though if I explain, we can repeat that, right? There's no problem at all. See, if you are typing something on a keyboard, which means you are sending the data to the computer. So every time when you press the key, the letters and numbers and symbols will be sent to the computer. So using keyboard, right? Through keyboard, we are able to send data to the computer. But think about another instance. Look, you can use mouse. Most of you have experiences with mouse. So what happens when you use mouse? When we use mouse in order to do some actions, we point some objects and we click on it and we do some actions. So imagine with mouse, we cannot input data. So what we are doing with mouse is we give some instruction to the computer. Look here. Now you can, right? You can see the mouse pointer now. Okay. So now you can see the mouse pointer. See, now I'm pointing the mouse somewhere. So when I click on this button, which means close button, this window will be closed. This presentation will be closed. So this mouse gives some instruction to my computer to close this application or close this window. So this mouse doesn't give any data to my computer, right? It's a kind of instruction. So sometimes instructions are given to the computer, sometimes data are given to the computer. from input devices, right? Some of them can give data, some of them can give instruction, maybe some of them can give both data and instruction. That is possible. Even we can give some instruction to computer using keyboard too. Generally, keyboard is there for giving the data, right? But in some instances, keyboard can be used for sending or inputting the instruction as well, right? Okay. So this is the first one, input devices. Look here, I give a small description. The devices which are used to input the data and instruction to the computers are called input devices. Never ever memorize, right? Just understand the fact. Maybe in your school level examination, they may ask the definition for input devices, right? Otherwise, these never be asked. Try getting some idea from input device, but you must remember that it is not only for data, it is also for instruction, because we have some experiences with marking, right? So most of the students mention only the term data, they forget to include instruction, right? Remember both. Okay, right. So we have so many input devices. I think you are aware about them, right? So you know some of the input devices. Some of them are well known, some of them are very common, and some of them are very rare, right? We use them in some different situations. Tell me some of the input devices that you use. Give me some of them.
Keyboard.
Okay, keyboard.
Mouse.
Mouse.
Web camera.
Web camera.
Joystick.
Joystick.
Scanner. CD player.
Scanner, CD player.
Microphone.
Microphone.
Light pen.
Light pen.
Trackball.
Trackball. All right, look. So you mentioned barcode reader. Digital camera. So if you have any answers, give me, right? I can summarize later. If you know some of the, see, there are students who don't know these things. Some of you may not, hear about them. So don't worry, I will explain everything from the beginning. So any other answers? Okay, look. So yes, let's take some of the input device, but look here, you mentioned some of them. You mentioned about microphone, right? Mouse, keyboard, you mentioned about joystick and barcode reader. Yes, you have so many input devices. You have hundreds, even hundreds of input devices, because look, in this modern world or in this busy world, everyone has so many needs, right? Everyone has needs, and maybe in every minute we add needs, right? We have new needs. So in order to fulfill those needs, input devices are invented from time to time. This may be the reason for having hundreds of input devices. But otherwise, mouse, keyboard, these things are enough, more than enough. But we have hundreds because if you use mouse and keyboard, sometimes you cannot fulfill all of your tasks. So since the needs or purposes are increased, right, immensely, those input devices are invented from time to time. Okay, so you mentioned some of them. I will explain them definitely, but before that, you mentioned these devices as input devices. You mentioned them as randomly, but I want them to be categorized, because some of your input devices are related to images or videos. You mentioned some of them, they are related to sending images or videos to the computer. Some of them are related to, checking or scanning or something, right? You mentioned some of them. So what I'm going to do is going to take these input devices as types. Remember, we already categorized the hardware into 5. Okay, input, output, processing, storage, communication. Now we further divide this input device into another 5 types, right? I'm going to divide those input devices into 5 types. Look, I will explain, wait until I mention the example. I want the type first. Okay. So first of all, we have keyboard. Look, you may wonder why keyboard is added as a category or as a type, because it's a device, right? I just mentioned that input devices are divided into types. You know, it is not the type, right? It is a device, but itself it is a type. It can be called, it can be taken as a category. I tell you what, you know, keyboard, among all these input devices, keyboard is very vital, very important, because you know, we input data in the form of numbers, text, right, symbols. That may be the thing which we often do in the computer, right? We often input the data, we often input the numbers, so it is inevitable, right? You must use keyboard. There may be some on-screen keyboards available, but you know, keyboard is very, very important. Mouse is there only for make your work easy, right? So otherwise, you know, without mouse also you can manage your work. Keyboard may be enough for handling the things, but when you use mouse, you have some added advantage, right? You have some benefits. You can easily control the things. That may be the reason why we use mouse, right? But keyboard is there, right? I will explain about keyboard later. This is the first category. So even though it is a device, we take it as a type because keyboard is very important input device. We have a type called pointing devices. Okay, pointing devices, I will explain, wait, right? Then the third one, there are some examples, right? It's a type, it's the name of the type. So definitely there are some examples for pointing devices. Then we have another one called scanning devices. Scanning devices, sometimes called scanners. Okay, scanning devices or scanners. Then number 5, video and image input devices. Video and image input devices. Finally, number 5, sound input devices. Okay, audio input devices. So input devices are divided into 5 types. There is a need for dividing input devices into 5 because, you know, input devices are there for input the data. We all know that the data exists in different formats. We already talked about them, right? So your data exists in number format, your data exists in text format, your data may be in image format, video format, audio format. So since data exists in different formats, you cannot use a single device, right, to input. So that's why we have multiple devices. So based on the type of data which are inserted, we have this classification. Look here, I can take one thing, see, video and image. So it clearly indicates that this group or this type of input devices is for image video input. Have you understood? Like that, everything takes the name. We will discuss one by one. Okay, let's start with the keyboard. Sometimes you will have to face questions about keyboard in the examination, not only in the school exam or term exam, even in the final examination. Questions can be asked about keyboard because keyboard is very, very vital among these input devices. Okay, let's take. So you need to remember some of the things about keyboard. You may wonder how things are asked about keyboard because keyboard is just a device. You know the purpose, it is for typing. So you may wonder how things are added or how questions are added. But you need to understand some of the things about keyboard. Look. So a keyboard has a number of keys, almost around 100 keys there, more than 100 keys there. So every key may be used for different purposes. You can find some keys in alphabet format. You may find some of the keys in numerical format, and also you have some other keys. So the keys on a keyboard can be categorized as groups. There may be some types of keys because your keyboard doesn't have only alphabet. There are so many types of key, right? So we have to understand the types of keys available on a keyboard. So let's take the types first. I can show a keyboard directly, then only you can understand. So let's take the types first. Okay. So there is a type called typing keys, which means alphabet keys, sometimes called alphabet keys A to Z. Okay, I'll show them. Then we have number keys, which is called numeric keys from 0 to 9. And on top of the keyboard, right, on the top, there is a row allocated for having keys. Those keys are called function keys. They are from F1 to F12. I will show them, right? I will show them and briefly explain. So you have function keys. And there are some keys called special keys. They are used for special purposes. We have shift key, tab key, or caps lock. There are some more. And we have control keys for controlling some activities through keyboard. So we have a CTRL, which means control key, ALT, Alt key, home key, and we have some other things. Okay, let's take them. I will take a keyboard and show them. Look here. I hope that you can see the keys now. It's a keyboard, but I have enlarged, or I have zoomed in. Right, look here. So now we took that first type as typing keys, right? Sometimes called alphabet keys. You know, these are the typing keys, right? A or S or D or, so these things are typing keys. But look, those typing keys are not arranged in alphabetical order. So they are arranged in a different order. I will explain, right? Look at the first key Q, then W, then E, like that. So you cannot expect keys in alphabetical order there. So these are typing keys. Then we had numerical keys or number keys. Look here, look at the right side of the keyboard. Okay, so now you have number keys 0 to 9, right? You can find them 0 to 9 number keys are there. So this small area is called numeric key or numeric keypad. But note, have you noted you have these number keys here on the right side as well as here? Look here. Here also you have number keys 0, then look here 1, 2, 3, 4. On top of those typing keys, you have a row allocated for number keys. But at the same time, you have a small area which is allocated for number keys. So on your keyboard, number keys are entered twice. Number keys are there in two different places. Why? What could be the reason for having number keys twice? Anybody? Why do you have number keys here and also here? Having number keys once enough, right? But why do you have number keys in two different places? Anybody? You all use the computer, right? Look here.
For right-handers and left-handers.
That may not be the reason, right? Any other reason?
To type faster.
Which one makes faster? The right side one or this one? The row which is on the top of the typing key. Which one? Right side?
Right side one.
Yes. How it looks like? The right. Look at the right side keypad. How it looks like? It looks like something, right? Can you guess how it looks like? This area. Hey, look, it looks like a it looks like a calculator. Look here, this small pad looks like a calculator. Yes, as you mentioned, this makes your typing faster. Assume that you are typing, you are working in an accounting sector or somewhere. So your task is to deal with numbers. You always type the numbers. So if you have numbers horizontally like this, now look here, numbers are in one row, they are scattered. So now, you know, imagine this is too difficult to type because numbers are in one place, but they are wider. So now you have to spend some time in typing the figures, numbers. But look here, it looks like a calculator. All these numbers are in a small place. So when you are typing numbers all the time, this is very simple. Handling this small keypad is too easier than typing on this row. So that is the reason why you have this additional keypad called numeric key, right? But in, you know, in some laptops or in some computer keyboards, you cannot find this numeric keypad because if it is a laptop, you know, the size is too small, so you don't have many keys. So that's why they ignore this one, or they remove this one. They keep only this one. But if you take some large laptops or maybe even some common keyboards, you can find it. Okay, this can be asked in exam. You have two different numerical keys because to make your work easy, right? This may be the common one, right? But we have an additional keypad on the right side in order to handle numbers. Okay, right. So typing is their second numeral keys or numeric keys. Third type, look here. On the top, you have keys like F1, F2, F3. It can be up to F12. These are called function keys. As the name implies, every key or every function key has its own function. So when you press a particular key, when you press a particular function key, that function happens or that function takes place. For example, who knows about F1? Why F1? Why do we use F1?
For brightness.
No?
Help.
Yes.
Mute the sound.
Wait, look. So I tell you one thing here. See, these functions keys have different functions based on the situation or based on the application. For example, look here, I'm in the PowerPoint, right? So I'm using PowerPoint. It's a presentation software. So if I press the F5 now, see, I'm pressing the F5, keep watching, right? Now what happens? This presentation goes full screen, which we call a slideshow. We will study later, right? Now that F5 key has a function that is turning that normal screen into full screen, right? But now see, I'm not in presentation now. Now, as you can see, the presentation is not open. I am not in PowerPoint. So now if I press the F5, I'm pressing the F5 now. See, nothing happens. So what I'm trying to make here is, it depends on the situation. So when you are in presentation software and press F5, that works. But now when you are in another application, now I'm showing an image, right? So I open an image. So here, this F5 doesn't have any work. Sometime in another area or another situation, F5 has another task or another function. So it depends on the application in which you are working. But this F1 always has the same function. That's why I asked you about F1. Yes, you mentioned help, right? If you press F1, doesn't matter you are in presentation software or you are watching movie or you are browsing website, press F1, you can get help which is related to that particular application. So I'm in the presentation again, look here. Now I'm going to press F1, look here, F1, see what happens. See, there is a window open, and have you noted that PowerPoint help? There is a small window appeared. I didn't click anywhere. I just pressed F1 and now I got a window and saying that PowerPoint help. So now I got help, but that is related to PowerPoint because I'm in the PowerPoint. So now let's try another one. So I can show you one more thing. Let's see. Okay, now I just want to open MS Word. This is MS Word, you might have heard. It is for typing. I press the F1 now. The F1 works, but look here, now it is about help on MS Word. So here you cannot obtain help, on presentation software, on PowerPoint, because now you are in MS Word, so now you get such things. So like that, if you press F1 anywhere, right? Assume you are playing a game, just press F1. So now you can obtain helps related to that particular game. Okay, so these are these are function keys. You don't need to worry about the function keys. Every function key which has the function, we will take some of the functions later, but for the moment these keys are for performing functions. So I explained about 3 keys: typing keys, numeric keys, function keys. Right, look, then we have some keys called special keys, right? So their purpose is for doing some special tasks, like caps lock. You know, there is a key called caps lock. You know, when you type on a keyboard, letters are typed in small letters. That is in general, right? When you press a letter, it must be small letter. But if you want to make that as capital, we have some other options we will discuss. You know, there is a shift key there. So, okay, I tell you one idea, but later, you know, typing is not to be taught at this moment, because typing related things will be taken in unit number 6, word processing software. But I want one thing to be explained in relation with typing. See, when you press small a, when you press A, it means small a. Small a is on the screen. But if you want to make it as capital, try pressing that small a along with shift key, right? Press the shift and A together. Now it becomes as capital A. Similarly, if you press R, it means small r. But if you want to make that as capital, try pressing that R with shift. Now it becomes capital. So this is how small letters are turned to capital letters. Press them along with the shift key. You have 2 shift keys, you can see them. In order to make your work easy, in order to type fast, you have shift key here, right? And also here, 2 shift keys are there. Same key, but they are in 2 different places in order to accelerate the typing, right? Okay, talking about caps lock. So assume now you want all the letters in capital format. You want a paragraph that may have hundreds of letters. All these letters should become as capital. In this instance, typing letters with shift key is useless, and also it is taking time. You cannot press shift again and again. So now just press the caps lock and start typing. You don't need to press and hold, just press it. Now every letter should be in capital letter. So use the caps lock when you want to type letters continuously in capital letters, right? Otherwise, if you want a capital letter for one instant, just press the shift and letter. But if you want capital letters throughout your paragraph, you may use the caps lock. So caps lock is one of the special keys. Even shift key is one of the special keys. And what key is this? Look, I will point it. What is it? Anybody? How to call this key? This one. I'm talking about this one. Oh, here you have 2 keys, yeah? Same key, but twice. What is it?
Windows
key.
Yes, this is called Windows key. Why do we use it? Okay, you are correct. The name is okay, Windows key. But what's the purpose of having this key here? You might have tried, right? You might have applied. Why? So this is for showing a window. See, look here. I'm going to press my Windows key on my keyboard. You can see that. Okay. So now when I press, I can take the startup menu in my computer. Look here. I'm pressing. See what happened? This is called startup menu. So when I press, so this menu is very important because this is a gateway for your computer. If you take this window, you can search anything, so you can go check anything which is in your computer. So that's why I used to call this as a gateway, because this is too important. So sometimes if you are unable to open, see, assume that your start button sometimes not working, or sometimes you want to quickly open this. So just press the window key and now it opens. So that is also a special key. Okay, so we have keys. Let's check them again. Okay, special keys: shift key, caps lock key, tab key. Tab key is for leaving spaces, but later we will apply, right? I'm not going to spending much time. Then control key, right? You have some keys which can control the activities, control your computer. See, for example, you have CTRL key here, CTRL. So control key can control your computer in some instances. And all the Alt key, ALT, this is called Alt. So, you know, that can also control. Okay. Even you have a home key or delete key. You have some other keys. We can use, or we can apply these keys when we do practicals in unit number 6. I don't think that they are important, but if you want, you can understand one more thing. So, you know, sometimes you may wonder how control key controls the computer. See, for an example, assume that you want to, assume you open a Windows like this, MS Word. I just open. Now I want to close it. I want to instruct my computer to close this. One option is clicking this close button. The other one, I may use the control key and W. Now see, I closed it. That white color thing is gone, right? I just press the control and W and close this one, close this document. Later we will study about such thing. This is a kind of controlling, right? And also, you know, you can use the Alt key, delete key, and F4 for shutdown, right? Alt key, delete, and F4. So that can work for shutdowning, but it shows a message and then you can shut down it. And also it can close the window. See, I open it again, Control Alt F4. See, it closed. So that is possible. So you have some keys which can control your computer's work. Okay, so they are called control keys. Often we will use control key later, right? So we can understand at that particular time. All right, so these are the keys found in a keyboard, but I tell you one thing here. So even though we have this classification, I cannot say that it is a standard classification, because if you go through some other books or other websites, they may have some different classification. Some of the types are same. They also mention them, but they have some additional types like arrow keys. You know, some arrow keys are there in the keyboard, right? So we missed this here, but you have some arrow keys. Okay? In order to move right side, you have right arrow key. To move towards up, you have up arrow key. To move the left side, you have left arrow key. To go down, you have down arrow key. You have 4 arrow keys. So these arrow keys are not included in this category, right? So we can take it as a new category, like, right? So that's why I told you that it is not a standard classification, but it is possible, right? You can maintain that, right? Okay, so these are the types of keys available on a keyboard, right? But look, nowadays we all of us, almost all of us, used a keyboard which has keys in this manner. Have you ever noticed the arrangement of the keys on your keyboard? So even if you are sitting in front of the keyboard, just look at your keyboard. The keys on a keyboard, I'm talking about alphabet keys. Keys on a keyboard are arranged like this: Q, W, E, R, T, Y. The first 6 alphabet keys must be this one: Q, W, E, R, T, Y. So that's why this kind of an arrangement is called QWERTY keyboard. The present keyboards which we use are called QWERTY keyboard structure. So they give this name QWERTY because first six alphabets alphabets are QWERTY. We don't arrange the alphabets in alphabetical order, right? A, B, C. So we use this pattern because, you know, before keyboard came, they used typewriters for typing. So typewriters used this layout. Layout means arrangement of keys. Those people who use typewriters then turn to computer when computers are, introduced. So the computer manufacturers or keyboard manufacturers kept the same layout because they thought that the typing on this same structure is easy, so they keep the same layout. But we have another layout too, right? I use the word layout, try to understand. Layout means the arrangement of keys on a keyboard. So you can say how keys are, spread or placed on a keyboard. The first layout is called QWERTY keyboard, right? QWERTY. We used to pronounce as a word, but in fact they are 6 letters, but we pronounce as a word, QWERTY keyboard. Why it is called QWERTY keyboard? Because first 6 alphabets are QWERTY. You all can check this your keyboard. Definitely this is QWERTY. Even if you visit to school or any other place, just check it. But there is another one called Dvorak. D-V-O-R-A-K. Right? So this is another one called Dvorak. So Dvorak is something different than this QWERTY keyboard arrangement. But don't think that Dvorak, these 6 letters are the first 6 letters in that particular layout. No, this is the name of a person, right? He invented or introduced rather that keyboard structure. So his name is given to that particular structure. This is not, this doesn't become famous, but people think that it is too simple or too easy to type on Dvorak structure because that makes you faster, right? But sometimes this becomes slow, right? You cannot type fast. That may be the reason why this is introduced. It was introduced, I think, around 1940s or something, 1940 or 50, right? I'm not sure, but it's quite old, right? But very useful, but unfortunately we use only QWERTY. I will show the 2 keyboards. Look here. This is QWERTY. I already told you, QWERTY. This is the structure, normal structure. And I have Dvorak too. This is how Dvorak looks like. Okay. Okay, A, O, E, U, I. So layout is different. You cannot find any 6 letters as Dvorak, right? I already told you that is the name of the person, right? Here letters are arranged in this manner. Maybe the others are okay, right? But when it comes to alphabets, they are arranged in this manner. Okay, so you have 2 types of layout: Dvorak and QWERTY. So QWERTY is widely used because that is the structure used in old typewriters, right? So when typewriters vanished and keyboards were introduced, they tried to apply the same structure. Okay, right. So these are the things I mentioned here. Okay, it's the most common input device. As we know, it is the most commonly used input device. There are 2 layouts of keyboards, QWERTY and Dvorak. QWERTY, first 6 alphabets. Dvorak, this is the name of the person who invented or introduced this keyboard layout. Keyboard exist in 2 sizes, 101 to 102 keys or 104, 108. Look here. We can't exactly say the number of keys. I think in your book also they put numbers, right? So don't give much importance for such things because, you know, every time keyboard may have different keys. It's up to the keyboard manufacturers to decide. So when they feel that adding some new keys are very useful for the users to handle the things, they can add some keys. But while maintaining or while keeping the important keys, they can add some additional keys, right? So that is tough to point that exact number. Even asking a question about how many keys on a keyboard in an examination paper is not advisable, right? They cannot ask such questions. But as a student, you can understand that around 100 to 120 or 125 keys are possible, right? Within this range, 100 to 125 keys are possible on a keyboard, right? Otherwise, remembering these numbers is not expected, okay? Right. So these are the keys found on a keyboard, right? So let's take the mouse also, because mouse is too simple. I can quickly finish it. We all know that mouse is a device. Sorry. Before that, I have to take the pointing device. Okay. After that, we can take the mouse. So look at the type. I already divide, right? So your hardware is divided into 5 types. Keyboard, I explained. Pointing devices, scanning devices, imaging and video devices, and sound input device. Just now we finished the keyboard. So let's take the pointing device. And then we need to take this example one by one, right? So I tell you what pointing device is. So that name again tells the story. So tell me, what is pointing device? What are pointing devices? So these devices get the name pointing devices because they are able to point some objects on the screen. With the pointing devices, you can point some objects, or maybe buttons or some other objects on the screen. Take a look at the mouse. You all have experiences with mouse, right? With mouse, it is possible to point some objects. Like I mentioned earlier, right? I can point that close button in order to close it. So what happens? That mouse helps me to point some objects. Not only mouse, right? There are some devices which can be used for pointing the objects on the screen. So they are called pointing device. The simple or the common example is mouse. Look, those who don't, have experiences can see this. Look here. Now you can see them, right? You can see the mouse movement. I can pointing some objects on the screen, right? I'm pointing the close button or the other buttons. So I am pointing here. So this is pointing device because it helps us for pointing. So that's the thing. Pointing devices are for pointing. The input devices used to point the objects on the screen are called pointing device. Got it?
No.
We have number of pointing devices. The most common pointing device is mouse, right? Because mouse is a very common object with every computer. With every computer, you can find keyboard and mouse. We already discussed about keyboard. You can find mouse. But some other devices, you have some other pointing devices, but you cannot see them with the computer all the time. When you need them, you can. Otherwise, you can't. But mouse is a common one because, as I mentioned earlier, mouse makes our work easy. That's why we use mouse. Okay, I tell you one or two things about mouse. First of all, mouse is a pointing device. Yes, there may be 3 buttons on a mouse. Sometimes nowadays they have 4 buttons also. Generally 3 buttons. There is a button on the left side called left button. There is a button on the right side called right button, and there is a button or there is a wheel or something on the middle. So that can be called scroll button. Here they put as a wheel. I have extracted this image from your book. So that is called scroll button. Left button, which is in left side, right button in right side. Then there is a button for button in the middle called scroll button. That can move towards up and towards down. I will apply that. So that is called scroll button. But you have 2 types of mouse. I must explain because as a student, you should know these things might not be asked in exam, right? But you have to understand there can be two types of mouse. The present mouse, or maybe the mouse which we use in nowadays, is called optical mouse, which uses light for pointing the object. You can find a light in, underneath of the mouse, right? That is called optical mouse. Sometimes people call it a light mouse or something. But we had a mouse in the past which didn't use light, which used a kind of mechanical movement. Some things moved inside of the mouse in order to get the mouse movement. So we use a mechanic. You know what mechanical is, right? There may be some movement inside of it. That is called wheel mouse, sometimes called mechanical mouse, that didn't have light. Okay, so I tried to explain those two mouses in briefly, not today, in the next class. Okay, so enough for today. We can quickly finish these input devices, but I am taking again some time because these are very common. Every student who studies ICT should know about them and their functions. So even though they are not important for exam, we should know, right? Because we have to use them in our life. So we should know why they are used and how they must be used. It's enough. Any questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, when will you send the Unit 1 rest notes?
Okay, I try to send it quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Because we have finished or we have completed that one, right? So I will send it soon. Any other questions? Okay, so since you don't have any questions, we can wind up little early. So enough, we will meet in another class. Thank you.